Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Nurturing Success, where we chat with successful financial advisors and other related professionals about what they're doing and how they think about the world and those kind of things. I'm excited to have Gary with us today. A little bit different for me, simply because I've not worked with Gary and have not never actually met Gary until a short while ago here, and so it's kind of a fun conversation. I can tell from his profile that he's very good at what he does, and he'll tell you more about that. So thank you very much for being here, Gary. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, cool. I always like to start off with kind of the question, and I'm a person who kind of believes in being grateful and the abundance of the world. And so you tell me, what are you grateful for today, Gary?
Yeah, personally, there's a lot of things I'm grateful for: my health, my family, my friends. Yeah, I'm very fortunate in that regard. I just try to appreciate every day, even the days that it snows here in Chicago. We were just
Yeah.
chatting before. I
Yeah.
just came back from Palm Springs, love it there, but Chicago's my home. But yeah, I just really try to appreciate everything from a day-to-day basis. And then professionally, I'm grateful just working with such great people here at my company, terrific colleagues and clients. I'm thankful for the trust that clients place in us. It's a
Yeah.
very personal part of their lives. So,
Absolutely.
very thankful to be part of that. And then just being in a position to help, people make a difference in their lives. Money's
Yeah.
very personal. So it's great to be that anchor for someone.
Yeah. I love that. And well said, right? I do think it's a blessing, for those of us that get, the pleasure of working in financial services, right? I mean, there's highs and lows all the time, but at the end of the day, you're helping families, and that's what's important. So I appreciate that very much as well. So as you think about 2026,
Mhm.
are there some things you're excited about in either professionally and personally? What are you excited about for 26? What's going to happen?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right,
Let
you
me
got to
just
go
go grab the crystal ball. I left that in my
right to the
office.
prediction,
So
Gary. Right?
yeah.
What are you excited about? What do you think's gonna happen these days?
Yeah, well, it's a new year. I mean, there's a lot of, there's a lot of uncertainty. There always is, right? So I'm always excited for the possibility of what can be. We had a great year. We're coming off a great year in the market. So that was, I think, a surprise to a lot of people. We had the recent changes in tax law back in July, so we
Mhm.
haven't, really seen the full effect of that. And I'm just excited because it's something new, right? And I mentioned the uncertainty, but things, I work in the markets and with financial consulting, and it's really, helping my clients get to a good spot and know that they can weather the storm, when that does happen. It'll happen eventually. But markets, they climb a wall of worry. So, it's really just kind of understanding that that's a normal process of taking risk and being an investor. But yeah, I'm just excited. I'm really excited for summer. I just, it just brings out the best in people. I know I'm a weather person, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff. And then just ongoing in my profession. I get to meet new people all the time. I get to hear a lot of great stories, and there's just more people that we could potentially help and get them to a better spot. So I'm excited for all of that.
Yeah. No, perfect. Thank you. So your background, and you have an extensive background, and I know you kind of began life in a professional career in the accounting side, your CPA and so forth. Kind
Hmm.
of what led you to become an advisor to families and sort of helping people with their personal money decisions? What brought you there?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So for me, it's personal. So as you mentioned, I started out as a CPA. That's what I studied in college, and I worked in public accounting for a few years, and then private industry. And when I was young, a young professional, I was just making a lot of mistakes with personal financial
Yeah.
decisions. I was buying stock and not making money and buying the wrong ones and just, having trouble with budgeting. A lot of things that if you're not educated and you haven't anybody to teach you this stuff, it's going to happen. I got tired of just making those mistakes.
Hmm.
And, I also wanted a career that was more personal, had more personal interaction. So the CPA is a great foundation. I wouldn't change a thing. Worked with some tremendous people there and learned a lot, but I just wanted to have a career where I could just meet more people um, and make more of a difference. So the CFP was just getting traction when I started. I took a class,
Yeah.
and the rest is history. So here I am.
Yeah. No. Good for you, right? And so for folks that, well, again, most of the advisors listen to this and other people, but the CFP designation is, that sort of the highest level of designation you can receive when you're working with individuals and families. So congratulations. I know it's a lot of hard work to get there, but you did the CPA, so I'm assuming you could get the CFP. So I think there are people
Yeah.
that believe the CPA exam is harder than the CFP, but I don't know. I've neither done either one of them. So
Yeah, they're both pretty hard. So the CPA is at the time it was a written exam, so I think that
yeah,
was harder, but now it's more multiple choice, I believe. But they were both equally hard, very challenging. Yeah. Wouldn't
yeah.
want to do those again.
No, no, I don't blame you. That's great. So you kind of have tax mitigation is kind of the cornerstone of maybe not cornerstone, but it's certainly an element of the work you do with families and helping them reduce taxes and so forth. Um, is that a differentiator? I mean, how do you view that? Do you view that as kind of the key part of how you market yourself to clients, or how does it work into it?
I think it's taking a holistic approach. So it's really kind of looking at the big picture, but having an emphasis on tax management. So after tax returns tends to be an afterthought many
Yeah.
times. So it's not necessarily what you make, but it's what you keep. So looking at tax efficient investments, asset placement, tax efficient withdrawal strategies, loss harvesting, all those things, they can really make a huge difference over time. But I think from the planning perspective, how we do things much differently is that we focus on doing actual tax analyses, and we use
Hmm.
software to do that, where we can scan the client's tax return, create what if scenarios, and it helps us really be able to plan out and do a much better job from a mechanical perspective of knowing, hey, if we're looking at a certain strategy, for example, Roth conversions,
Yeah.
it looks good over several years, but what about this year? There's a lot of deductions that can get phased out or eliminated if your income goes up. So that allows us to really see, are there any potential tax traps that we're not wary of? And it gives us a really good result. And then we're able to show this all to the client, walk them through it and see, hey, here's what you can actually achieve from a dollar's perspective, and they can see it before anything is done. And then I think it's a real value add by doing that. And it's something that we've integrated in all of our client planning scenarios.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I would say it would be, pretty key. I'm guessing that, not every client understands it, but if they feel that you're working to, save them money and create a better plan, that's ultimately good for them. So thank you.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely. It's something you can quantify too. So
yeah,
tax savings, you can say, hey, by doing this, you saved X amount of dollars. And over the course of your plan, you'll save, tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars as a result that can go to your family or to charity or whatever. So
sure.
it's very powerful.
Well, and it sounds like one of the key things you said is you got to show them, right? So it's down on a paper, it's part of the plan. It's a tangible thing that people can feel. I do think oftentimes people don't understand the value of a tangible plan. And in reality, it might be in a meeting with you or me, for that example, and you talk about stuff and they leave the meeting and they forget 80% of it, right? And
Hmm.
so the takeaway of the plan and being able to refer back to it and so forth is important. How do you do you have a way of going back to clients and saying, hey, did you really understand this strategy or this plan? And how do you follow up after you sort of presented a concept to a client? What do you do after that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think having a meeting summary is important. Clients, they value their time and they rely on us to help them with follow-up items and implementation. So we try to keep it simple. I try to keep it simple. It depends on the client and
Sure.
but I think trying to avoid jargon, just really trying to get to the point and helping them understand what it is we're trying to accomplish and why is really a big value add. And really just being on top of deadlines. So, people are busy. They're not thinking about this or that. Sometimes they don't know what questions to ask. So it's really anticipating their needs. Part of my job is trying to, like you're saying, see the
Yeah.
future. And once you get to know somebody over time, you tend to have a pretty good ability to estimate, hey, you might want to think about this, or, hey, you mentioned this a while ago. What are your thoughts now? So it's really just trying to be ahead of the curve and being proactive, and then proactive in communications too. People get busy, they forget. We have a meeting, they say, I'll get back to you, they don't. So just being that gentle,
Yeah.
reminder, a coach, if you will, to say, hey, this is what we need to get done. Let's try to knock it out if possible.
Okay. Well, so there's a couple ways we go here. Let me stick with sort of this communication track for the moment. Tell me a
Mhm.
little bit more about your team. It sounds like it's very intentional how you're sort of following up and kind of moving people through your process. Maybe just talk about that a little bit, your team and the communication pattern and kind of what you've built as part of your practice.
Yeah, for sure. So So we work as a team here at Mesirow, and each so Mesirow has several different teams to better serve clients, and our team has three senior advisors, including myself. Uh, we have two client service professionals and one junior advisor, and then that way clients always have a live person to talk to, and we're proactive in how we serve clients. So we touch base quarterly. We meet twice per year. We update the plan at least annually, but it's usually more than that. And then we all work together. That allows us to align our advice and thinking. So no matter who you're talking to, we're all in sync. We can share ideas. That allows us also to focus on our areas of strength and better serve clients to create a more consistent experience. And consistency builds trust. So, we want clients to have a repeatable, professional, experience when they're working with us.
Yeah. I like that. To the degree that you're comfortable sharing it, what are some, what's your, I'm not sure I love this word, tech stack. Like what software you're using, what CRM, how you kind of managing that part of the business. And again, just whatever you're comfortable sharing. There's no secrets. You don't have to give away secrets if you want to. So,
Yeah, so we use eMoney for our financial planning. It's very robust in projecting future outcomes to help clients know if they're on the right track. We use it for cash flow modeling for a lot of things. Also for, they have a great portal and the ability to link outside accounts is something that clients find very valuable. We have tax planning in-house software, which I mentioned. So that reads the
yeah.
tax return. We can scan it, very efficient, allows us to create what if scenarios, as I mentioned. For investments, we have a dedicated research team to fall back on here. So I'm sure they use a number of tools. So, probably Bloomberg. Uh, all of us as advisors have access to Morningstar. So that's, that allows us to also be in tune on the, the day to day and the blocking and tackling of the investment side of things and analyze things. But it's nice to have the dedicated research staff, with 7, 8 experts to ask questions and really do the deep dive on due diligence and that sort of thing. Um, and from there, it's really bringing in the right partners. So we have an in-house estate specialist to help,
Okay.
so that's very valuable to clients. We have a Medicare specialist as well. That's a very, tricky place to navigate. So clients find it very valuable when they're approaching age 65 and not sure what to do. And then from a contact management perspective, we use Salesforce that helps us keep things automated, organized, and efficient. And in this day and age, we really have to be efficient. Then, of course, there's AI. I guess what podcast would there be without mentioning AI, right? So we
Sure.
have enterprise AI, which has been really tremendous. We use it. Well, yeah, everybody uses it a little bit differently. It's in the early stages, but I use it more for uh, checking Word documents and proficiency and that sort of thing, helping parse information. The jury's still out on whether or not it can do greater things with accuracy, like analyzing and giving you accurate information. So you really do have to
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
the information and be sure that it's correct before you start using it from that perspective, I think.
Yeah. AI, is I was going to ask you about how you're integrating AI potentially into your practice. And maybe there's some personal use cases you maybe feel comfortable sharing, but it is interesting, right? I think we're at an inflection point kind of in financial services with AI. I think there are people that are been on the front edge of that are doing quite a bit with it. We've done a lot in our practice with AI, and we're sort of really trying to think through, it's more automation and efficiency to really free up time for us to have better conversations, with consumers and clients and partners and so forth. So,
Mhm.
is there anything in particular that you're working on with AI, the personal level, or anything that's kind of interesting you want to share?
Well, yeah, I think AI, it's we're all kind of still in discovery mode,
Yeah.
right? And how we use it, and it's going to continue to evolve, I think. So, really, for years, what's been happening in the industry is that um, fees have really stayed the same, but the expectation in terms of deliverables has expanded, right? So adding more services like tax planning and estate planning and more points of contact and that sort of thing. So AI allows us to be a lot more efficient. So I think getting up to speed in terms of what it can do and what it can do well and what requires less review after the fact. For research, it can be good, but again, you really have to check the math and check what's going
Yeah.
on there because there have been several times where I've gotten incorrect information. I actually called that out and said, "Hey, this you said this 10 minutes ago. This looks incorrect." And the chatbot came back and said, "You're absolutely right, Gary." So,
Because it's your best friend, and the chatbot loves you, Gary, right? Like it's like they're always so friendly.
yeah, exactly. And you can teach it the tone, and it was
Sure,
a
yeah,
little
of
too
course.
flattering, and then so now my chatbot wound up being a little bit rude at one point, so we got the happy medium.
Good.
Um, yeah, so but it's great. I mean, think of just how early this is and what this is going to be potentially 5, 10, 15 years
Yeah,
from now.
it's
So but we're using it to the best of its ability, in our opinion, and it's been great. And it allows us to spend more time on what's important for clients, helping them make decisions, walk them through the emotional aspect of investing, not act on emotion and
yep.
focus on things that they can control, right? Spending, you can't control the markets, but you can control your saving, your spending, and your tax strategy to some extent. That's really what's important. And then being there, as a trusted resource for them when they need us.
Yeah, no, I think it's insane. Yeah, we could spend a whole time talking about AI, but I won't go down that road yet. I want to go back to you mentioned the tax bill a little bit earlier, the OBBA. Is there any so just from your perspective, are there a couple of wins in there that you want to mention, and are there maybe some negatives in there that might be important for people to be kind of aware of?
That's a very good question. So, probably the biggest one that you've been hearing most about is the increase in the state and local income tax deduction.
Yep.
So, it used to be capped at $10,000, and they could potentially deduct up to $40,000 if you're married, 20,000 separate. There isn't an income limitation. So, at over $500,000 combined income, if you're married, that can start to phase out, and it completely phases out at 600,000. So, careful planning is important because what that allows you to do with certain strategies is it can wipe out part or all that deduction or have no impact. So that's where tax planning can really come into play. There's a lot of talk about a senior deduction. The income
Mhm.
thresholds are very low, however, so it's 75,000 for single, 150 for married filing joint. Social Security is still taxed. There's nothing that has changed with that. There's a misconception that I wouldn't pay tax on Social Security anymore. Really, it's getting a senior deduction, which is several $1,000s depending on
Yeah.
what your income is. But Social Security is still up to 85% taxable.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed there. When you look across the board, who's going to benefit from the tax changes? Just about, most people are going to benefit. And what I've seen and what I've heard and read, somewhere of maybe $1,500 is the average tax advantage for most
Mhm.
taxpayers. That's substantial, right? And if that makes its way back into the economy, that could be good things for earnings potentially. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. No, that's great. There's a lot in there. The one that directly impacts my world that you mentioned is the increase from the 10K to the $40,000, deductions on state and local tax, the SALT deduction. And it's interesting because it's changed my conversations again with clients around deductibility of mortgages and owning real estate and those kind of things. And obviously in high cost areas, you know, on the coast, that can make a difference, right? And there's still the limitation of the $750,000 mortgage amount, but nonetheless, it's bringing an interesting conversation, right? So it is going to start to affect people's cash flow in a little bit different way. I don't want people to plan on tax benefits from buying homes. I don't think that's the right way to approach it. But at the
Mhm.
same time, if there's some tax benefit to it down the road, then I mean that's great. And it just depends kind of where they are in their income and life cycle as to how big you deep into it. So
Oh,
uh,
absolutely. And often, like when I'm looking at tax planning for clients too, so the mortgage deduction is in addition to state and local income tax
yeah,
deductions, right? And then charitable deductions on top of that. So the standard deduction was increased, but there's still the ability
yeah,
through, maybe bunching deductions to itemize and take
yeah.
advantage of that. Take the standard 1 year.
Mhm.
But over time, the consensus is that mortgage debt is a good debt to have because it's linked to an asset, right? And
Sure.
if you get the tax deduction on top of it, that's a really good thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, we'll weave, if we can, just into sort of my world a little bit. I mean, how do you think about, liability? We call it liability management, right? So, at the end of the day, what we feel like we do is manage, sort of the liability side of the balance sheet, and professionals and folks like you, Gary, manage the asset side of it. So within your practice, how do you have the conversation with clients about liabilities and debt and sort of these real estate conversations? How does it work into your planning?
Yeah, so I get asked that question a lot. So, like I said, I think there's different types of debt, and there's, good debt and bad debt. I think it really all comes down to the individual and how strong their plan is, looking at the projections to see, hey, what makes sense from a cash flow perspective. The interest rate's obviously important too, but there's a lot of factors that can come into play. Uh, the examples of not so good debt or bad debt, as a lot of people refer to, credit cards. We try to help clients through that. Often, student loans come into play. But everything really depends on the interest rate and what the goals are, and how the person feels about it. Sometimes just having that debt
Yeah,
out there makes people feel bad. And I get often asked, should I pay off my mortgage? Well, the answer, if you have a 3% mortgage from 5 years ago, probably not. But
yeah,
how do you feel about that? Is that keeping you up at night?
yeah,
So, and I get a lot of questions on second homes too. The pandemic changed a lot of thinking in terms of having a second residence. So, there are tax advantages, potential tax advantages from that. But I think it really just kind of depends. And, you know, liquidity is important, right? So you could be, you know,
mhm.
too illiquid, and maybe having some sort of a debt assistance, by way of a mortgage can make sense. It really just depends
Yeah.
though.
Yeah, I think I'll go back to when you described your practice as holistic, and you've described a holistic approach to debt, right? So at the end of the day, I don't personally believe, debt is neither good nor bad. There are bad types of debt, like you said, credit cards, for example. But at the end of the day, it's all about your cash flow. And I like you mentioned liquidity, right? So, when you look at, liquidity, rate of return and safety of any kind of asset, right? Whether it's home or gold or, coffee beans, doesn't matter. Liquidity is what people get in trouble with, right? They don't realize the importance of liquidity most of the time. And when the stuff hits the fan, liquidity is what's going to bail you out. So anyway, just an easy reminder there. So thank you.
For sure.
Um, all right, we're getting close here to wrapping up. I want to hear just a little. If you can you share with me your a little bit about your family and stuff you enjoy doing outside of work. Tell what's Gary like? What do you like to do?
Yeah, great question. So, you know, so my family, we're all from the Chicago area.
Yeah,
So, my mom's out in the west suburbs. I get to see her as often as I can. I've got family out in other states. My sister lives in New York, so we're a little bit spread out. But yeah, grew up, you know, uh, in this area, so this is home. For some reason, maybe it's just from watching too much TV as a child. I just always loved California, so my dream was always to have a place out there. We made that dream reality in 2020. So bought a
nice.
place on the internet, sight unseen. We didn't think we would get
Really?
it. Yeah.
Wow.
And once we get, yeah, I thought there was this 1% chance of us getting
Yeah, getting it. Yeah.
accepted, and we did. And then we had to figure out how to pay for it, of course. But it's been one of the best things we've ever done. So I love traveling, love spending time out there. Just love warm weather. In terms of hobbies, I'm a big Chicago Cubs fan. Hopefully, that won't rile too many feathers. There's a lot of Sox fans here and other, rivalries. If you're a Mets fan, I apologize. And in terms of things that I like to do, I'm an amateur tiki drink maker, so I just have an
Oh,
affection for, like, I collect tiki mugs. I know it's weird, but they're
I love
really
that.
fun, they're art, right? And then I like the history of the tiki bars. So like down the Beachcomber had, places in Palm Springs, and
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
they reopen a place. They call it something different now, but yeah, so I bought the recipe book, and yeah, so that's a hidden talent that I've got, I guess. So um yeah, so there we go.
I love that. I have to say I've never talked to anyone who has who collects tiki, mugs, cups, right? So that's pretty cool,
Yeah, it's kind of
right?
weird.
And we had a tiki bar in our fraternity house. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah, yeah, we did
Or
too. We had
we
the
built the
big
whole thing, and we resined in the bar top, and the whole thing.
yeah, the other thing I love classic cars, especially like cars from the, mid 60s to the early 70s. And uh so
Do you have one? What do you have? Do you have a car?
no, I don't. I used to, but the maintenance is just too hard. And
Yeah,
getting a garage in Chicago, a heated garage, is pretty
yeah,
tough.
that
So
that makes
so
sense.
I live my life through clients that love cars, and so I had one client when he retired. I asked, is there one dream item that you've had on your list? He said, yeah, um, I want to buy a classic muscle car. So
Yep.
I said, hey, I'm your guy. I'll go with you, and it was fun. Just seeing the excitement in their eyes. But yeah, someday, not now, because I
That's
don't know how
great.
to fix anything except for
Well,
portfolios.
yeah,
That's it.
that's interesting. Well, I'll tell you, if you get one, and you can leave it out here in the desert, Gary, it can sit beside my '66 Mustang, which I like,
Ooh,
which is it's not a show car, but it's pretty nice.
ooh, nice. What color?
It's red, cherry red.
Nice.
So, and it's been restored pretty nicely, but it's anyway, it's a nice car, but it's not a show car, for example. But I can drive it around. I'm nervous to drive it around, but I do drive it around.
I'm sure it's
But
great. Those are
I,
awesome.
yeah, it was. And as you know, out here in the desert, there are a ton of car shows, right? Every weekend is
Hmm.
car shows during the season. So,
Oh yeah.
um, well, cool. So just so people understand, kind of, your practice, maybe give me a quick client profile. Assets. I mean, sort of who are you looking for? Who are the clients that you feel are a great match for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work with high net worth individuals, families, and some endowments. So we're here to help. We lead with financial planning, and we manage investment portfolios. But it's really trying to help clients who want to either have an advisor side by side, may not want to give up the reins, still enjoy doing things, but want to have somebody in their corner helping them out, or those that just want to completely delegate. We can take on any of those roles.
Yeah.
uh, we tend to work with we do our best work for portfolios of $1 million and above, but that doesn't mean don't talk to us. We're always going to try to get you in the best hands, and if we can't help, we'll find somebody that can. And it's serving as a personal CFO. That's kind of how I like to look at it. So anything financial, from as simple as, should I get a mortgage? Should I
Yeah.
buy this house? When can I retire? Should I take Social Security now or later?
Yes.
To what should my estate do? Should I consider an advanced charitable trust or something of that nature? So we can handle all levels of complexity, but it's really just trying to be that trusted confidant for clients, feeling comfortable. This is a
Yeah.
very personal area, and we just want to make clients happy so they can live an enjoyable life.
Love it. That's great. Um, so obviously you're licensed in Illinois. Can you work in other parts of the country?
I can, yes. They have licenses elsewhere outside of Illinois, so
Right.
can pretty much work with anybody throughout the country, and we
Perfect.
travel quite a bit. We go to our clients, unless they want to come to Chicago, as
Sure.
long as it's after June. I wouldn't recommend coming now, but we'll
Yeah.
come to you if you're somewhere warm, especially.
Love it. Perfect. Well, thank you very much. And I appreciate all your time and sharing your thoughts and your wisdom and so forth. It sounds like your practice is a great practice and you're having fun and enjoying it, which is important. So thank you for doing great work in the world.
Oh,
Uh,
thank you. Yeah, likewise. And yeah, really appreciate again being on your show and being able to meet you and join you today.
yeah,
Thanks so
my
much.
pleasure. And I want to leave you with the last word. So if there's anything you want to kind of throw out in the world that makes it a little bit better place, I'll let you kind of share a thought for the day if you don't mind.
A thought for the day. I would say just you know stay the course. Like I said, markets always climb a wall of
Yeah.
worry. Money's very personal. It can affect a lot of aspects of one's life. Just know that there's ways to make it better, and just know what works for you. There's no one size fits all. Everybody's different, but focus on the long term. Be patient. It's wealth is built slowly, but it can be lost very quickly.
Yeah.
So just remember, time, not timing, is what builds wealth over time.
Perfect. Great advice. Thanks again, Gary. We'll talk to you soon.
It's my pleasure. Have a great day. Thank you.